Okay, good afternoon everybody. Welcome to today's NCFE Provider CPD webinar on T-Level Stretch and Challenge. If you haven't already done so, can I ask that you put something in the chat box to let me know you can hear me okay? You'll find the chat box at the bottom of the webinar control panel on the right-hand side of your screen. Also, a quick reminder about the pre-session questions sent out to everyone before today's session. There's a wealth of experience and knowledge in the session today, and I would like this to be shared. The answers to the questions will be asked for as the session progresses. If you hadn't already had the chance to review them, you'll find them in the materials section of the webinar control panel in the participant handbook. We also encourage questions from participants. No question's a silly question, and if we're not able to answer them today, we'll follow them up afterwards. All questions and answers included in the chat today will be saved and shared with you all after the session. Also, the session is being recorded to enable the colleagues who can't attend today to access it afterwards. My name's Helen Scanlon. If you haven't met me yet, I'm the Curriculum Officer for T-Levels. My role is to support centres through the planning, onboarding and CPD processes for NCFE cash qualifications with a focus on promoting and advancing learning. Today's session is related to stretching and challenging learning in T-Levels with a specific focus on the education and childcare route. I've included a photograph of myself there so you can put a face to the voice, and you'll also see my contact details on the screen. I do have over 25 years of teaching experience working in a range of settings. I've got experience teaching and assessing FE and HE from pre-entry to master's levels and have a vocational teaching background. I'm also a maths and English specialist. I worked in teacher education team for 14 years and supported the professional development of teachers working across all sectors, and I've worked closely with Ofsted inspectors on many occasions. I'm also joined today by Janet King, one of our T-level sector managers and the subject specialist for education and childcare. Janet should be able to answer any subject-specific questions which are asked. Hello, Janet, and thanks for joining us today.
Hi, Helen. Absolute pleasure. Lovely to be here. Good afternoon to everybody. Thank you for giving up your time to be part of this webinar this afternoon. Thanks, Helen.
Brilliant. Thanks, Janet. The outcomes of today's session are to explore the concept of stretch and challenge, analyse how to set appropriate stretching targets and objectives and have high expectations for students, evaluate stretch and challenge activities and how they could be used within T-levels, and explore how to engage and motivate T-level students to reach higher and excel in their studies. An agenda for this afternoon, we're going to be here for an hour in duration. It will include a range of activities with tasks, self-reflection activities, and sharing of the answers of the pre-session set questions. Feedback from our centres has included requests for more interaction and interactive activities. And although this may be a challenge when we're not working face-to-face, the structure of this afternoon's session is based on participants completing activities and sharing their ideas and experiences. The session is being recorded and the link will be made available in due course. Questions not answered today will be followed up with the relevant staff members after the event. Also, please remember that questions are encouraged. All sound settings are on mute to avoid background noise and feedback. An evaluation will be deployed on completion of this webinar, and we encourage you to complete this short survey to help us to improve and develop our CPD offer. Feedback polls and quizzes will also be used during the session to gauge opinions and views. You'll have received the participant handbook, and as I say, it's in the materials section of the control panel. If you've had a look at it already, you'll see that it's been designed to be used alongside today's session activities. Its completion is not mandatory, but would be useful for you to refer back to after the session if you record your ideas and/or any interesting points which are raised or made. Please be prepared to share your ideas throughout, and this will be achieved by the completion of polls and discussions related to the preset questions. The sharing of your experience and ideas is vital to the success of this session, which we'll do via the chat box, and all your ideas there will be saved and shared after the session. Okay, so let's get started. I'm going to start off by asking everyone if they could respond to the first poll question, which is on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being low and 10 being high. Please rate your confidence level in relation to setting stretching and challenging targets and goals for your T-level students. Sorry, I'm just going to launch the poll. Sorry, I've just realised people are saying in the chat box, thank you, just give me a second. Right, so you should see the poll on the screen now. If you just click the number that, oh, wonderful, if you're seeing the polling starting, thank you so much. Just click the most appropriate number, thank you. I'll just leave it open for a few more seconds. We've got over 60% voted already, so thank you for that, for those who've already voted. Okay, just a couple more seconds and I'm going to close the poll. I think we've got just about everybody voted now. Okay, I'm going to close that vote now. Brilliant, thank you everybody. And let me just share the results there for you. So as you can see, most people are around the middle point, but we've got some people who are quite confident. Excellent. I really want you to share your ideas and experiences if you're nice and confident. But nobody feels right at the bottom they want to. So that's brilliant. I expect to see that kind of range. So many thanks for everybody completing that. My expectation was that we'd be starting the session with a range of confidence levels. It's important at this point for me to highlight that the focus of the session is not to explore why we should use stretch and challenge in activities with our students learning, but to explore and evaluate the methods we could or do use and how they could be adapted and best used for T-level students. We'd also like to discuss strategies which centres use, therefore sharing ideas and best practice. Okay, so we're going to start by answering question 1. You'll find this on the slide now and on page 4 of the participant handbook. Please add your answer to this question in the chat box. This is where we'll start to explore the concept of stretch and challenge. So what does stretch and challenge mean, and is it the same as differentiation? Oh, why has sorry, let's bear with me, right, it looks like it should be back now for everybody. I don't know what happened there. I probably clicked on the wrong little cross there, but there's the activity on the screen now. What does stretch and challenge mean, and is it the same as differentiation? Don't know quite what happened there. So I'm just going back in the chat box just to check everybody's got anything, questions or anything. It looks like we're up to date with the chat box. So I'm just going to run through some of the answers that are coming up there. So thank you, Penny. It means extending activities. It certainly does. Penny, for more able learners. Yeah, you do think generally stretch and challenge is for your more able learners. We'll come back to that later. Thank you for that, Penny. Lynn, yes, I think you're right there. They are different to differentiation. Stretch and challenge is challenging all learners to meet their potential, whereas differentiation isn't about stretching learning specifically. Lovely, thank you. Keep going with these answers. So thank you, Jerry. To create teaching and learning that enables deeper learning for a student. Yes, deeper, higher, more challenging, exactly, fantastic, thank you. Fiona, previously aimed at brighter students, yes, different to differentiation, absolutely, I totally agree. Marion, helping learners to meet their full potential. Nice, like it. I think what we might come to back to there, Marion, is do the learners know what their full potential are? Do you know what the full potential is? Is there a discrepancy? Do you have to set extra challenging activities for them to actually complete to make it a stretch, to make them reach the potential? Brilliant, thank you. Tracy, thank you. To extend and deepen students' learning, love it, thank you, yeah. Marion, no different to differentiation. Oh, no different to differentiation. That's interesting. I think stretch and challenge is differentiation, but differentiation means so much more than just stretch and challenge, possibly. So Rebecca, setting individual targets to extend a student's learning and development. Yeah, it's about that extension work activity, isn't it? Thank you. Right, Claire, lovely. Different. Differentiation is making adaptations for individuals' needs, and stretch and challenge is enabling full attention potential. I totally agree. Thank you. Thank you, Fiona. It feels like it's about encouraging learners to have deeper learning, but also to be aware of further views and concepts that grow from current ideas. Yeah, absolutely. Yes, Marion meant it is different. Sylvie, thank you. I thought that's what you meant. Jerry, differentiation is to ensure that learning materials and the approach taken by the tutor to give the student an opportunity to participate and integrate. Yes, that's an excellent definition of a differentiation. Thank you for that. Tracy, stretch and challenge requires differentiation strategies. Certainly does. Thank you. And Fiona, wider learning, getting the learners to analyse and evaluate their thoughts and ideas. Yes, it's taken them up that learning pyramid, if you like, isn't it? We'll come back to that. Brilliant. Okay, if there's anybody else still to put anything in the chat box about the answer to that question, please do. As I say, they get saved, so they will be shared with everybody after the session. Okay, we're going to move on just to maximise the use of our time this afternoon. So many people associate differentiation with stretch and challenge, but they are two separate things. All stretch and challenge activities would be forms of differentiation, but not all differentiation activities would be stretch and challenge. Differentiation is whatever a teacher does to personalise learning, which can include stretch and challenge activities, but not always. Stretch and challenge is viewed as a method used to help the more able reach the highest level, and the focus on the more able students has also been a governmental push. Publications and research carried out by Ofsted and DFE have spoken much about stretch and challenge being used to assist the more academically talented learners succeed. The danger with this view is that stretching and challenging may end up being focused purely on the more able, and this should not be the case. I'm going to go into some different, some of our found definitions of stretch and challenge. So these help us to define and clarify the term. The first one here focuses on stretch and challenge activities, allowing the most gifted learners to display their abilities at the highest level. The second suggests that stretch and challenge activities should allow all students to meet higher level learning outcomes. The final example here applies the term to all students, but brings in the expectations of the teacher. This is most interesting. Do we set expectations and therefore teaching and learning activities based on the limit that we as the teachers set? I'm just going to leave that question there for a second and let you have a read of those definitions. Okay, my point for this afternoon really is stretch and challenge is for absolutely all students. So this is when the work the students complete is demanding and challenging, but still accessible to them. The level of demand can be categorized into 3 zones. The comfort zone is when students can easily access the work. It's not stressful or challenging. In other words, it's easy. The struggle zone is the ideal place. This is where the work is challenging and demanding for the students, but doesn't cause much undue stress or anxiety. The panic zone is when the level of demand and challenge is too high and inaccessible to the students. They find it incredibly difficult and stressful when trying to complete this work. When the level is pitched correctly, most students will find the work stimulating and also be more motivated to complete it. You'll see activity 2 on page 4 of the participant handbook. Linking back to the limits teachers set, and this is probably done subconsciously, in relation to how students will achieve, please watch the following short video and consider how your own experiences compare to what is described and explained. So the question is, how does what is described and explained in the video I'm about to share relate to your experience as a teacher? You can bring in T-level, you could bring in non-T-level programs, but thinking about how you teach, how you perceive the levels of attainment of your students, how you see their capability, what their stretch and challenge level would be. How does what we are going to listen to on this video compare? Now you'll need to make sure as I'm launching the video that your speakers are working, but that your microphone is off, because if your microphone picks up your video, it'll share it with everybody. So you just need to make sure, as I say, that your video is running, the speakers are on, but your microphone is off. I'll launch it for everybody. You can pause it and restart it, but it's only, I think, 3 or 4 minutes long. So ideally, when I launch it, you should be able to just watch it and then take it, and then we'll come back together and discuss it. But think about how this compares to your current experience with students. So it's just launching the video. Just give me a second. So it's just loading if anyone's waiting. Sorry, it's just over 5 minutes long, this video. So I've just paused it a second. Can you tell me in the chat box if you can? It's now stopped. So if you want to say it stopped, so has it been playing for some people and not everybody? Because I've paused it. I know I've got Claire telling me it wasn't playing and Jerry saying it couldn't see anything. Hasn't played for you, Elaine? It's playing for you, Tracy. Was playing then paused. I think I've paused it. Hasn't played from Jerry. You had to press play, yes. So it might be that you'll see a picture or an image, or you need to go to a different tab at the top of your screen to actually see it. If it might not do it automatically. Right, and Rebecca says it's still playing for her. So I've paused it for me, but as I say, you can take control of it. So Haley says it's now playing. Penny says she can see it. Brilliant. So play it if you can, and if you can't see it, please tell me still. As I say, it might be that you need to click play yourself. It might be that you need to go to another tab. Janet, it took a while to load. Thank you. You need to go to the YouTube clipping materials. It is there. So if it's not running automatically, go into the materials, and I've put it there as well, the YouTube link. I'm going to brilliant, got through the link, excellent. I was going to say, I'm going to take it that, thanks Jerry for that. I'm going to take it that if you're not putting anything in the chat box, you are able to watch it, and you're watching it rather than listening to me.
as dramatically as negative expectations. Psychologists call this the Pygmalion effect, after the George Bernard Shaw play with the same name, in which even an uneducated ragamuffin society labor. In an experiment conducted at an elementary school like this one, psychologist Robert Rosenthal and school principal Lenore Jacobson took the Pygmalion effect one step further. Show was the extent to which teachers' expectations could actually affect pupils' intellectual performance. For example, their IQ scores. So what we did was test everybody in the school with tests that tended to be a test of how they could be done. So-called test of reflective position. And allegedly on the basis of that test, but really gave each of the teachers in the school names of a handful of children in the classroom that would get smart rapidly ahead. These kids' names were taken out of the hat, chosen cards and table. The children themselves did not know that teachers were holding certain expectations for them. Teachers were told not to tell the kids, and of course we didn't tell the children. So the children and then when we tested the children a year later, we found that those kids with alleged good teachers showed intellectual gains. In fact, showed greater intellectual gains than did the children of the ones that were taken. So the kids actually were smarter than expected was by the teachers. Factors that mediation, communication, self-fulfilling, especially so what are these four things that teachers tend to do differently to kids for when they have greater expectations? First of all, is the time that teachers tend to for those children who have favorable expectations. It's nicer to them, both in terms of the things that they say and also for channels of communication. The other important factor is the so-called input factor. That others surprising. Teachers teach material to those kids frequently. Kids can picture that. But you can't really do something to teach them. Two other factors, though, influence. One is the response opportunity thing. That is, kids get more of a chance to respond than the teachers expect when they're out calling them. They talk longer. They help and shape with them answers that the kids speak out, kind of working together to put their response out. The last is feedback. Feedback works this way. As you might expect, if more is expected of the kid is praised positively, forced more for getting a good answer. But interestingly enough, he's given a way of differentiating feedback and a good answer. One of the ways in which it's used is that teachers will accept a formal response or clarify what would have been a good response, but maybe the solution was wrong. What's the use? Kids know it's smart enough to profit from this additional clarification. So those are the four factors: input, response opportunity, feedback.
Okay, I'm just going to give it a few more seconds and then I'm going to cancel that activity. I'm hoping everybody's seeing it now. Could you please pop into the chat box your ideas in relation to how does what was described in that research relate to your experience, your knowledge, or was there anything different or thought-provoking, interesting that you found watching that? If you could just pop some ideas into the chat box, please, that would be great. And I think, Janet, if you could put something in relation to the subject area and how the T-level education and childcare students might benefit from knowing that the impact of that self-fulfilling prophecy would be on their work, if that makes sense, Janet.
Yeah, no problem.
Thank you. Brilliant. Just going to give it 5 more seconds and I'm going to close the activity so we can all come back together. Okay, I'm going to start reading through the comments that are coming in. So thank you for that. So Marion, need to be mindful that we give all learners the same chance. Yes, chance for that stretch. I love it. Yes, brilliant. Penny, I think getting them to attempt higher grades will encourage confidence. Yes, if it's a supported attempt. If they attempt it and fail, it might knock their confidence, but that's a really good point, Penny. Anna Dunn, thank you. So Rebecca, students are given target grades based on their GCSE scores in our college. Does this limit their own expectations and ours as teachers? It could well do, couldn't it, if it's based on GCSE? And I think so long as those target grades are revisited and updated as we learn more about them, or if they come to us saying, I think I can do better than my targeted merit, that would be brilliant. So Penny, are we talking a lot about command verbs, achieve, and possibly we are thinking about command verbs, and we're going to come to Bloom's a little bit later on. I think the 4 areas of the climate, the input, the response opportunity, and the feedback, I think they're very interesting points that what I made there. Right, Janet, I'm just going to read out yours. Thank you. So the importance of feeling actually, Janet, do you want to read it instead of hearing my voice? Would you like to read what you're saying, and just in case you want to expand on anything?
Okay, yeah, sure. Okay, so what I've put in here is it's about the importance of feeling valued, and I think everybody needs to feel valued, and that our personal contributions are exactly that they are contributions, and that's critical for learning. So students on the T level will consider metacognition, and they'll learn about that and how this supports reflection and intrinsic motivation. And I know we were talking earlier about differentiation, stretch and challenge, and I think differentiation within stretch and challenge allows those opportunities for students to feel in control, to feel as though they're part of something, and that sense of community, if you like, and they become more curious, and that will help in that sort of fundamental aim to progress and to learn, to make a difference in what you know and what you understand, to actually learn within your potential. Thanks,
Absolutely.
Helen.
I'm sorry, I was sitting nodding my head like everybody could see me while you were talking there. Absolutely. And I know, thinking back, I can recall times when I've set my own expectations for the students that I've worked with, and with some of them have risen to my challenge, whilst others have surprised me by excelling when it wasn't necessarily expected. It would be best practice to set high but achievable targets and expectations for all students. And of course, these will be differentiated, like Janet said, and personalised, and probably differ for each of the T-level components as well. So we're going to have that spiky profile I talk about in English and maths, and the different components. Different students are going to excel in some areas and struggle in some of the others. So we need to keep that in mind as well. Setting a high target or goal in one of the components might not be appropriate in another component. So just thinking about the different areas of the qualification as well. Okay, we're going to keep moving on. So thanks for that so far. If anything else pops into your head, please put it in the chat box. As I say, it's getting saved. So we're going to move on to the case study now. You'll find this on page 5 of the participant handbook, and also in the material section of today's session. If you haven't had the chance to read it yet, I'll give you just a couple of minutes and we'll cover the questions in a moment. If you've managed to read the case study, please let me know in the chat box, and I know we can move on when that's done. Brilliant, thanks, Jerry. Brilliant, thank you, Marion. Lovely, thank you, Fiona. Thanks, Rebecca, brilliant. Thanks, Anna. It's like a bit of a register of a tick off list here, who's read it. Lovely, thanks, Fiona. I'm going to keep going now. If you haven't quite finished reading it, it's there for you to do. So I'm going to launch another poll. Lovely, thanks, Claire. I want you to, based on the information in the case study, and only on the information that's in the case study, can you make a judgment call, please, on what type of student Alex is? I'm going to launch another poll here for you, so you've got some choices coming. What type of student is Alex going to be on your course? Please choose the most appropriate answer in the poll. So just bear with me, I will launch it. So you've got a few choices there. He's either hardworking and a high achiever, he's going to do very well. He'll do what he needs to get through and pass. He'll struggle. He's got factors which will make his learning hard. He'll do the bare minimum but should do okay and pass. Or do you think he's got too many external priorities and barriers to excel? So please choose which of those fits best for Alex. Lovely, I can see people are starting to vote. Janet, I'd like to include you in this vote today just to make sure we get a subject specialist view of Alex.
Okay.
So we've got about a third voted so far. We're heading up to halfway, 50% nearly, so that's brilliant. Wonderful, we're past halfway now. And we're at 70% now, so we're nearly there. Thank you. If you haven't voted yet, please do. I think one thing I will say here is I'm not going to ask you to justify your answer at all here. So please feel free to be honest. What do you make of Alex based on that case study? Just going to give it a few more seconds. We're over 80% now. Right, I'm going to close it in a second. Okay, I've now closed it. I'm going to share the results with you now. So as you can see, the majority of people went for kind of in the middle there. Thank you for that. Although I know I did ask you there to make a subjective judgment based on limited information. We're all human beings, and however professional we are, we will make judgments similar to this. I'm sure I've had an Alex in at least one of my classes, and we should be aware that the type of assumptions we make. These assumptions may include limiting their potential. Our students have potential beyond what we can only see. Sometimes we let our experiences limit our perceptions of our students' potential. Assuming what they know and don't know. We don't always find out what they know and don't know, and this can hinder student motivation, learning, and their progress. We can have an interpretation of their behaviour. why they are acting in a specific way and how this relates to your expectations of them. Behaviour that is acceptable to one teacher may not be to another, and how behaviour is interpreted by teachers may also differ. We have bias, we have conscious and subconscious bias. And this is normally based on our experience and understanding of different factors, for example, cultural and racial. And also their motivations and reasons for attending the course. We make assumptions related to them and also their goals and targets. And back to the preset questions, please add in the comments box your ideas regarding the concerns you would have for Alex and the priorities you would have for him. Okay, I'm going to go down to back to the chat box now and see what people are telling me. So from Jerry, thank you. Is this assumption or anticipation so that we can put support into place that gives them strategies inside and outside of the college or school? Yeah, so that he can excel. Yeah, is it? Yeah, we can make probably good, and you can anticipate what support needs are there. Never assume, always find out, and clarify is what I would say. Janet, what concerns or priorities would you have for Alex if he was in your T-level class?
Okay, I think, you know, as you said, it is subjective, and I think most things you know, whatever anybody's chosen there, you could kind of justify, because I think everybody's coming at it from the right place. But I think I went with the majority in this case, and what I did in my own head is take away he'll struggle. And I just concentrated on learning is going to be hard for him because of all the things that are going on, and that was my starting point. So I think you know, you need to understand what's going on with Alex. You need to find out how it's impacting his learning, and just really it's about that personalization. It's about making sure that Alex has got, you know, signposted to that wider community. I think somebody has just said there about that wider support network within a school or college that could help and help Alex with everything else that's going on, so that learning becomes as uninterrupted as it possibly can during this busy period for Alex.
Yeah, absolutely. Brilliant. I'm just going to go back to what people are putting into the chat box just to share it all. So thank you for that. Just going back to where we were earlier. We were up to Jerry's. So Rebecca, concerns, commitments as a carer, reluctance to do placement, undecided enrolment, didn't qualify for his first choice course, unwilling to take the risk and start placement. Absolutely, I would have all those concerns too. Fiona, to ascertain caring requirements or impact, yeah, definitely. Get some history, his abilities and achievements, lovely, yeah, excellent. Claire, concerned about not being in placement as this will support his learning. We all know that theory and learning has to be put into practice to be consolidated and ensure that it's being learned. So yes, I would have total concerns about him being reluctant to start placement. Penny, he could excel more if he understood how popular he is. Yes, absolutely. And well liked, it might encourage him to focus more on the positives. Yes, excellent, excellent point there, building on things that are obvious positives. And Penny's also suggested he might be class rep. Very good idea. That would set him up to be a bit of a role model, and it might raise his aspirations as well. Thank you. Jerry, would use one-to-one tutorials to monitor his progress. He would never assume, but give him signposting so he can empower himself. Absolutely. Definitely level 3 and T-level students need to be empowered to become more independent and resilient. Rebecca, priorities, focus on maths qualification, discuss his home situation, signpost support systems, absolutely. Get Alex into placement as soon as possible. Yeah, and find out why he's not so keen to go on placement, and promote the benefits of being on placement as well. Marion, thank you. Concerns, he started late and needs to catch up, absolutely. That he isn't showing his peers the true Alex, he's hiding 2 major issues and he's reluctant to go to placement. So the priorities, sort of study support for epilepsy, personal tutor, alerted elderly relatives, yeah, and support to catch up, excellent. So I think generally I wanted to make it that appear that Alex had a lot of support issues and would need a lot of support, but that shouldn't lower our expectations of him. So just be aware of how we make these assumptions related to what we know about students. And Claire, really good idea, thank you. Maybe buddy up on a placement with others who are doing well. So excellent idea. And it might, if he's put with someone who's doing well, that might then again raise his aspirations. So absolutely, thank you. So keep your ideas coming in the chat box, as I say, and we will share them with everybody. So keeping moving on from that, we're going to talk about the case study. Thanks for your input there. And this brings us back to the concept of that self-fulfilling prophecy. There will be a positive or negative impact depending on our assessment of each of our students' capabilities. We should also probably acknowledge that if we set expectations higher than a student's self-set goals and aspirations, we may need to do more work in relation to supporting the student to achieve and improving their confidence level, which I know some of the ideas that we've had strategies-wise have come up in the chat box today. Thank you. This could be an action research project for you to take away to review what you already know about your T-level students, how you perceive their future progress and development, and how you might adapt your approach with some of them and evaluate its impact. So just an idea of applying that in the context of your own students now. Okay, we'll now move on to the final activity for this session at the top of page 6 in the participant handbook and the final questions from the pre-session activities. Please put some notes and ideas in the chat box with evaluation and justification, please. I'm going to talk through the answers provided and I'm going to run through some of the ideas that we've had in advance of the session. So I would say have a listen along and make some notes if you haven't already got them. Share answers if you already have got them in the chat box, please. Okay, thanks a lot, Penny. So I'm going to share ideas and examples with a focus on education and childcare T-level. I'm going to go through some activities and see which are the best stretch and challenge approaches and how would we adapt them for our students. So first of all, for full class discussion and debate, easier to do in person than virtually, but also conducive to adaptation by the teacher in relation to the questions and/or tasks given to the students to stretch and challenge their thinking. Also knowledge of the students and bringing in what we know about their current level of knowledge and experience. It would also be great if we could bring in examples from their industry placements here. Let's just check the screen. Sorry, someone's saying they can't see the screen. Thanks for letting me know there. The next one is worksheets, which can be completed in person or virtually. Although we may not have the capacity to individualise the actual worksheet, the instructions and extra tasks we could give the students could support stretch and challenge activities. Games and quizzes, more for in-class activities, but there are some excellent websites and apps which allow us to do this virtually as well. As for worksheets, we can individualise the instructions and tasks, but also the roles in those groups or teams, especially if completion is in a group or a team. Starter activities, virtually or in person, and shorter starter or energizer activities can be easy to individualise. Finding out about the student's starting knowledge or opinions can be a simple activity to adapt into a stretch and challenge. Bouncing questions. I say playing basketball or netball and not tennis. What I mean here is using questions in group settings and bouncing them onto the other students, whilst using Bloom's taxonomy to differentiate them. If one student can demonstrate knowledge, could another apply it and then another evaluate it? We could also demonstrate planning for this by anticipating which students would require which type of question. And moving on to higher order questions. Again, using Bloom's as a guide, the planning and type of homework or consolidation questions for individual students. Homework tasks. Once a topic is completed, certain tasks to complete at home or at their placement. For example, it might be that some students could review a case study while other students could be asked to produce their own case study. Delegation, especially useful in group tasks. Thinking about your students, who could be a leader, who could be an observer, and who would be stretched just by being part of the task. Having control of the delegation of tasks is useful. And when could this be done by the students themselves? Student self-selection activities, having a range of activities at different levels of challenge and asking the questions, or students, sorry, to choose one which will take them out of their comfort zone is a useful approach, but might need careful management for some students who would rather just coast. Charging for teacher help. Having a system where students are allocated a set amount of something, for example, credits or virtual cash, then they can ask the teacher for guidance. It costs them. Having a running tally of who has the most at the end of a set period of time could bring in the concept of competition, which is also motivating for some students. This would help to create independence and not need. You're not the knight in shining armor coming to the rescue. Teacher's helper, having students assigned as the teacher's helper on a rota basis, depending upon the topic, could have students using and consolidating their knowledge and understanding if chosen appropriately and managed effectively. The classroom or homework challenges, having a challenge bank featuring a range of tasks that require students to consolidate and master key concepts and apply their knowledge in different contexts. KWL. This is a sheet for the students to complete at the start and the end of an activity or topic or session. The K would be, what do I already know about the topic? The W is, what do I want to know about the topic? And the L is, what did I learn about the topic? This can work very well and allow teachers to adapt for stretch and challenge, especially if they don't know the students very well. So this sheet would be completed at the start of a session in relation to the K and the W, and then during or after the end of the session for the L. Presentations, thinking about how much guidance is provided, but also what the students are asked to base their presentation on, again using Bloom's. Some students could be asked to analyse and justify, while other students could just be asked to identify and explain. I did say we'd come back to the command verbs, didn't I? And then personal target setting in a classroom, virtual or in tutorial activities, and students can be stretched and challenged via the teacher expectations and input. Whatever stretch and challenge activity is used, we should be aiming to develop the students' resilience, independence, thinking, and questions. I'm just going to go back to the chat box and summarise some of the ideas that have been put in. Janet, have you any favourite stretch and challenge approaches for the subject area, or you could share?
I think it would come quite naturally out of what's going on in that classroom, because you'd be automatically sort of differentiating and stretching and challenging through discussion, through question and answer, through what is actually brought to you from the students and those natural responses. So it's kind of building up, but it starts with the students, doesn't it? And then it's up to the tutor, to the teacher, to be able to respond in such a way that there is a connection to that and it's taken forward. So I think finding something that works tends to be something that will be naturally occurring, but is a natural extension of what's been going on in the classroom. And then you'll have sort of certain activities, certain tasks and exercises that some students probably prefer more than others, and it's about getting that balance right. But I do, the challenges of the way we're learning at the moment brings its own sort of ups and downs in terms of effective teaching and learning. So it's about finding your way. I don't think there's a magic one, Helen, but definitely starting from what the student brings to you, and then building that connection, valuing that connection, and bringing that student forward on their journey. But there's some nice ideas here. I don't think I have a favourite. I think it's
right.
Just about finding what works best within your teaching and learning experience.
Yeah, absolutely. And Claire's shared an idea as well here. Thank you, Claire. Seating the students in mixed ability groups. Absolutely, but don't let your ones who are easy or the more of the coasters, let the harder workers and higher achievers do all the work. So I mean, any technique, any approach here needs a bit of management from the teacher, doesn't it? I'm just going to go on to the next slide, because the next slide does have a reminder of Bloom's verbs. And so when I send you this out, obviously I'll have all of these available to you to see when you see the slides. I'll also send out the KWL sheet that I was talking about there, just in case it makes more sense seeing it. Thanks, Rebecca. Self-marking a long answer response, exactly, or using a high standard exemplar as point of reference. Why did you give yourself that score? How can you extend your answer to score higher? Absolutely. And what targets will you set yourself based on this task? Absolutely great. We really need to promote independence and work from themselves. So my final poll for today is another rating of your level of confidence related to stretch and challenge. So after the after completing the session, what I'd like you to do is exactly the same. Oh, okay, Jerry, if your fire alarm's going off, you need to go. Thanks a lot. I'm going to launch the final poll. Please say what your confidence level is now. You've finished. We've got to the end of the session, and we've talked about the ideas and inputs. So brilliant, everyone's voting now, so thank you. I know we're going to get fewer voters because people have had to go because of teaching commitments and fire alarms going off. I hope everything's okay where they are. I'll leave this open for a little while longer. Just a few more seconds. I'm aware that we started a little bit late, so we're going to finish just a little bit late, and I do thank you for your time. I'm just going to give it 10 more seconds, and I'm going to close this last poll. That's okay, Fiona, thank you. Thanks a lot, Fiona. Okay, I'm going to close it now. So thanks for that. I'll just quickly share the results. And as you can see there, everyone's gone to the higher end of that scale. So I do appreciate that's great. Thank you so much. So as always for my last two slides, please think about your takeaway. What are your main takeaways from the session? And it might be that you watch the recording of it and have a think of the different activities before you can actually come up with some takeaways, but please do. And then also an action plan. It would be really nice if anybody could do an action research project in challenging their thinking with their students and trying to do some stretch and challenge with students who you weren't expecting to do so well, and see how they actually work. If thinking back to that video, if you have higher expectations of them, the research does show that there is a positive impact on how they then progress and manage. So if you have any final questions or queries, ideas, thoughts, please pop them in the chat box. I'm just explaining very quickly what our further and forthcoming CPD sessions are going to be. We've got developing English skills in December. Very importantly brought forward, the preparing for the summative assessments. There are two different sessions, one for exam prep and one for the employer set project. We're going to look at differentiation in more detail, in February, and then we're going to look at placement, preparing students for, but then managing of in March. So as I say, those are the forthcoming CPD sessions. We do encourage you to actually do something with any new information you have. As I say, if you could do a mini action research project related to the content of today's session, that would be wonderful. Janet, have you got anything else that you'd like to say before we finish?
Only to say thank you to you, Helen, for a wonderful session as usual, and thank you to everybody for their amazing comments. It's great to be part of this network and community. Thank you.
Brilliant, totally agree. I love the input that people are having in the sessions, and we do try and promote that as much as possible. Many thanks to everybody for their input and sharing of experience and ideas in the session. Thanks ever so much. We'll keep the chat box open for a bit longer if you've got anything else to pop in there. And goodbye, see you at the next session, and please stay safe from everyone at NCFE. Thanks again. Thanks a lot, Janet. Yes, I'll catch up soon. Fiona, thank you. Yes, it just sometimes it is a reminder, isn't it, to challenge our thinking and think of our students and not putting them into boxes, as you say. Lovely. I appreciate that. Thank you, Fiona. If you're still here, I've still got the chat box open. So if you do have any questions, or do have any ideas finally that you want to share, please do. And a reminder about the valuation as you log out as well, please.